All right, guys, we're back here with the Backlash Boys. We're gonna do something a little different. We've been talking about it. We're gonna do. We're trying to do this post this every Thursday, record it every Wednesday. But we're gonna start this topic called the technique of the week. And tonight we're gonna start off with flipping. The technique of the week is gonna be flipping. So we're gonna go around and talk about what line we use, rod, reel setup, what bait we use, what line, what weight, size do we use, and then kind of what kind of structure we target with it. So Robbie, you're one of your favorite baits is the flip. So how about you start us off?
Well, I do like flipping. Um, I flip with a 7.6 extra heavy Denali flipping stick, uh, 25-pound tracer sunline flipping line. I'm old. I can't see the line. I need that tracer. Uh, I use a trocar hook. I flip with a half ounce weight most of the time. Uh, Probably one of my uh, favorite things to do is to get in the bushes. I feel like I can catch a fish doing that. Uh, any kind of creature bait seems to be the trigger that I like to flip. Uh, that's pretty much about all I do. I hit a lot of willow trees, lay downs. Uh, Watts Bar this year, it was on lay downs that I did catch a lot of fish flipping. Uh,
I
I
think
like
you
to
would.
find the isolated stuff.
I think
What?
you'd flip. I think you'd flip off of a duck if you had the chance.
I, I probably
So
would if the duck sat still long enough.
Yeah, this man will flip. He's like, "Oh look, there's a duck." Flip.
so what time of the year do you like to flip the most? Like when like what in your mind, what time of the month is like flipping season? You want to say for around here, East Tennessee. Like when it hits this time, you're like, okay, I'm gonna pull out the flip stick.
Really, the timing is because here in East Tennessee, our lakes uh, drop 30 and 40 foot during the winter. So once that water gets
There's
up
not
into
much
them
to flip.
trees, yeah, during the drawdown of the lake, there's not really any structure to flip. But I tend about a week or two after the water's got up into the trees, I tend to pull in and start doing that. Uh, Flipping. Every lake's been good flipping this year except for Cherokee for me. Uh, why I don't know, but it has been. I can't catch them doing it there. Everywhere else, pretty much this spring, the every tournament we fished, I've caught fish flipping. Uh,
It seems like it has been a good flipping year.
uh,
Hey
Minus
Rob.
Cherokee. Yeah.
So yesterday in that rodeo, I noticed there was a tree, obviously from the storm the night or two before it falling down. Are you trying to flip too much off of it? Or are you going since it ain't been there long?
Uh, I don't know. We pulled into that same spot a few years ago. They had just cut some trees down off the bank, and the tops had fell in the water. They were still green. They hadn't. It looked like it had been done like that morning, and we was there that evening. I caught fish in them things.
Right.
Um, I think sometimes them bass are just cruising the banks, and when they find that wood structure, they either set up for ambushing.
And I think it
Uh,
depends the time of the year because sometimes those freshly new trees they'll stay in it because the shad, the bluegill, and all that kind of stuff will feed on them freshly fallen trees because all the algae, the shad like to eat the stuff off of it, the bluegill eat the stuff off those new trees, and so I think that's why the bass pull up in the new ones at certain times of the year.
yeah, it,
All right, Dusty.
it can be a
Go.
good bite,
Yeah,
a real big bite. That's the reason I like doing it is because any flip could be a big one.
yeah. All right, Dusty. What's your little setup you got going on?
I'm flipping a 7.6 heavy Kessler rod um, with an 8 to 3 or 8 3 to 1 reel, something fast to get it back to me. Um, Normally around a 20 pound line, half ounce, kind of like what Rob said. And normally it's a pit boss or some kind of creature somewhere similar. Um,
Ah,
So what in your mind? What's your time of year that you like to flip?
Man, I hate flipping. So it's one of those last straw kind of things to me.
Oh, so you don't like to do it as much.
I'm not a big fan of it. I mean, I'll do it if you got to, but there's another bread and butter out there. Obviously, I'm gonna go do it. But and plus, where I fish with Rob, you don't get much behind him when he's flipping it. He's kind of a jerk. I might as well sit down and eat a sandwich. And
hey,
being a co-angler, if you're flipping, that guy's on something because normally he's flipping, and yeah, you're flipping different spots, but
But
he's
if
kind
you
of
get
lucky at the
behind
draw.
somebody like Rob or me or
Yeah,
something like that, we pick apart every
yeah. But by the
little
time you get to where you can
piece of that
flip,
cover.
he's done seen whatever he's threw 2 or 3 times. Um, but I mean, I like doing it off of laydowns, but timber mainly. So
What size
unless
weight
you
you usually
unless
like
you're
to
with
flip in with your
Dusty and
flip?
unless you're with Dusty and he flips in and practice and catches the fish that you're trying to catch for tournament day.
that was a different spot, man. And you said, "Oh, that's a 4 pounder." The one I got was 3.5. All right, and I said it was kind of to show he'll still eat whatever. And I think you caught him the
What's that?
next day, didn't you?
I did. I set up perfect on that fish and flipped in there. I would have won the. I think I would have had a chance to win the watch bar tournament if I land that fish. Uh, he just wrapped me up. That's the thing with flipping too. They get you around them limbs. It's hard to get them out.
So Gavin, he's practicing. I see him throwing this spot and he misses it. He's kind of a tore up, but he ain't too bad because it's the day before the tournament. Well, I pitched just a couple more feet back up in the tree, and boom, got him. And I put him in the boat. And I know he's thinking this jerk. But the tournament before that, he was on a bedfish, and he's like, "Don't you throw it that? Don't you throw it that?"
Oh, the one I came back and caught.
Yeah, yeah, And then,
Yeah, that,
then I was messing around, and he come over and picked it up, and all I could think of is, "Don't set the hook, Dusty. Don't set the hook."
Hey Rob, that fish was a 3 pounder, by the way.
that's what I figured.
Okay, so my setup's pretty similar to y'all's. I have a 7.6 MMA fishing rod, heavy. I use 22 pound sunline shooter, and then I use a Daiwa Tatula pitch and flip with a 8-to-1 or 8-to-3 gear ratio. Like you said, a little bit faster. I can flip in and out, get really quick. Um, when it comes to bait, it all depends on me, the time of the year. I get really technical with my weight and my bait, which is sometimes it hurts me, sometimes it don't. Usually in early spring, early years of the summer, I use something that has a lot more flappy arms on it, and also that goes out with my weight. Earlier, especially right when they get off the bed, I like to use a little lighter weight. Um, I think it just triggers a little bit more bites in the early spring. Now, like this time of the year, I'm going to use something heavier, a half most of the time, sometimes a 3/8. Um, And then this time of the year, I like to have something that has a little bit less kicking action. I want that fast fall. I want something that doesn't have a lot of movement and just kind of shoots by their face to kind of trigger up a bite. Um, when it comes to cover, I'm the same way. I like to get in the thickest stuff that I can get in. The thicker for me, the better. Uh, I like flipping in places that usually people won't be flipping in because they're afraid to get a fish out of it, or they're afraid if they'll get hung up, afraid that if they do get a fish on, they won't get it out because I feel like you can get a few extra bites doing that. Now, I will like to do some like the isolated fishing stuff because sometimes your bigger fish will be sitting up on that isolated cover. They like to do that on Watauga a lot. Now, if you get to a situation where there's a lot of laydowns or there's a lot of bushes, I think that's when the isolated stuff gets more like it's better. Um, because like Watauga, where there's so many laydowns, if you got one laydown that's like away from everybody else. So there's one stick up that's off the bank from all the other laydowns. I feel like it holds a little bit more fish or bigger fish. Um, but my favorite time to flip is probably right, and I think my favorite time to flip is post spawn because you catch a lot of fry garters.
Are y'all
And
buzzing
also, I
down?
like.
Are y'all buzzing down the bank while you flip, covering as much, or
Oh yeah,
y'all?
I got the Trail Monitor 10. The more places I can flip, the more trees I can cover in a day, the better opportunity I have. Now,
Right.
if it's one of those things where they're being picky and you got to get it, because sometimes you can flip in a bush and a fish could come from the other side of the tree and come over and eat it. So when they're biting it like that, I speed. Now, if they're where they're being picky and you got to hit them right in their face, I kind of slow down so I make sure I hit every little crevice of that tree. But one thing I like about flipping though is it's something you can pull more than one fish off of one structure. Because that happened to me this at what South Holston saved my tournament. I had one fish and one tree. I had my limit. I caught 3 fish out of one tree, and so that's one thing I like about flipping because it can like happen like that out of one tree. Um,
Yeah, I think the funnest lake to flip is Douglas.
Yeah.
yeah, it is fun. If you want confidence flipping and you're in East Tennessee, go to Douglas. Right when the water pushes up in them bushes, you could catch 20 to 30 a day flipping. And that's kind of where I fell in love with flipping was going up to Douglas.
Yeah,
Flipping.
and you know, like Dusty was saying earlier, if you're in a BFL and you're a co-angler and your boater's flipping, I've been there. I was co-angler for a few years, and I got drawn with a guy on Cherokee that was flipping one year, and he caught two right off a bat that was short, and I noticed he missed a stick, and I flipped on it and caught the first keeper, and he said, I missed that one. I said, yeah. He said, I won't miss another one. And at 10 o'clock, he's culling, and I still got that one. So
Yeah.
it makes it
But
tough for a
think,
co-angler.
and I think flipping is good for a co-angler if your guy at the front is doing something faster. Like if he's fishing laydowns and he's fishing with a spinnerbait, go behind him and flip it.
Oh yeah,
It's not every because just because he goes by a laydown doesn't catch one on a spinnerbait doesn't mean that there's not a fish in a laydown that wants by.
no, I think largemouth are lazy sometimes, and they don't want to chase.
Yeah, they are. They don't
They
want to
want it
move.
to
They
hit
don't
them
want
in
to
the
chase.
face. They want it to fall
Mm-hmm.
right in their mouth. They're like we are.
Like me and a
We're getting
We want
lazy.
cheeseburger.
our meals to be right on
And,
the
hey,
right on the plate.
unless it's a cheeseburger, then Dusty's running after
I tell you, I look like a
it.
smallmouth in pre-spawn.
That's funny. That's funny.
Uh,
Um, yeah, flipping to me, if I'm struggling, that's what I go to. Or if I'm going to a brand new body of water, I've always got a flipping stick on my deck. If from post spawn, even the spawn, from the spawn all the way until probably winter, I've at least got a flipping stick on my hand on my deck.
yeah,
And I think it's good too because I've had this happen. Now this ain't something that happens every single time. Say you're going down the bank with a spinnerbait, you have one roll on your spinnerbait. If you flip back over there, sometimes you can catch that fish.
do you think it's better to flip first thing in the morning or after the sun gets up on us?
I think in the summer it's better to flip when the sun gets up because they get closer to that cover. They hug it. That shade cover, they sit more in the thick of it. Because if you look on Panoptic sometimes first thing in the morning, those fish are more suspended in that brush pile. Or they're
Yeah,
suspended around the brush
or
pile.
yeah, they're more out than they are
Yeah, and
in.
I think when the sun comes up, they push up underneath it, and it's just like a dot to them. They use it for shade. Um, Now early in the spring, I think you could flip all day long.
I do too. Well, those tournaments, especially the Watts Bar tournaments that I fished down there this year, I pretty much flipped all day long.
Well, didn't you get more bites in practice at South Holston first thing in the morning flipping?
I did, and
And I think that's just
I called two of those flipping fish that I had cranking, but all the bites during practice that I had was right off the bat flipping, and you guys was telling me you weren't catching them flipping, and I was like, maybe I'm on something that might pan out. It did pan out. I got a check there.
hmm and
Well,
flipping can get very like specific too because like you noticed and I noticed this at South Holston they were on more than pine trees.
Yeah.
Hey, did you get
Because
that
if you,
one in practice that you flipped on at South Holster?
What's that?
The one where Jr. rolled up. Did you get
Oh
that one
no,
on tournament day?
I did not get. I didn't get it. I went back there and I never did get that. I wouldn't flip it. I was throwing that little worm up there
Oh yeah,
around a
yeah, that's
tree
right.
on that one. That was a bad
I
fish.
remember it was up in a tree. I thought you was
Yeah.
flipping.
That fish never
well,
did. I never did get that fish to bite.
Gotcha.
y'all got anything else to say about flipping?
That pretty much covers
And
it.
and flipping is so because you could talk about this for days because you can talk about flipping grass, flipping trees, flipping docks. Because flipping docks we didn't really talk about. But we don't have much docks around us. Now
To
when we
me, the
went down there for the
docks.
regional,
To me, the docks that are the best to flip are the ones that's built docks that's not floating.
that has
And
the post.
yes, on Cherokee and most of the lakes around here, it's not permitted for built docks, and they're all floaters.
Yeah,
You might
because the
find
water
some that was
draws.
grandfathered in that's got some posts, but I know of only two on Cherokee. There might be more than that, but I just know of two.
Hey, where they at?
And most of the time, if
That's a secret.
I'm flipping docks, I'm not really flipping it. I'm skipping. So the only time I really flip docks is probably around the spawn, trying to fish for spawning fish that I can't see, and that's mostly the walkways and stuff that I focus on. Um, Here's one more other question. Now this is probably going to be a lot of time, like a year, the time of the year. Do you focus on main lake laydowns, or do you focus on creeks? Do you fish the back of the? Do you flip the back of the creeks? Do you flip the mouth of them? Whatever. My answer to that is it all depends on the time of the year.
Practice tells me a lot.
To me, it depends on the laydown itself. Because I feel like all them fish does not push to the back at the same time. I think some of those, and I might be totally wrong, but I think some of those fish that live on the main lake live there all the time, and they'll
Mm-hmm.
pull up
And I think the
shallow on the
fish
main
that
lake.
live in the creeks that you catch in the creeks, they're on the bank. They live in those creeks
Yes,
That's
most of
my
the
fish.
time.
That's
Most.
my
most.
fish.
I think there will be some pulling in and out, but to me, it
You got a
depends on
lot of that is stationary.
that depends on the laydown, uh, or the brush that you're flipping. Uh,
Mm.
if I see some good stuff on the main lake, and I think that they're back in the creeks, I'm gonna flip out on the main lake just see if there's a big one straggling behind or something.
Yeah. Now, like when I'm attacking a new lake, I spring to post like all through spring, I'm flipping in creeks. Okay, and then once it gets hot in summer times, I'll focus on the main lake, but I'll still flip some of the ones in the creek too. So I kind of do both. Um, I don't. I'm not a big main lake flipper. I just think that the fish on the main lake get too much boat traffic because you go to a lake in the summer, you can catch them down the bank flipping, but then Saturday comes, there's a bunch of wake boats. All those trees are blown out.
Yeah.
The Saturday circus.
That's just my thoughts about it. But
Years ago, when I first started tournament fishing, we were fishing in a back of a creek, and we were going down this bank flipping, and there was a good laydown about 20 yards out in front of us, but there was some kids swimming in between us and the laydown on the bank. And the guy that I
mm,
was with, he said, "There ain't no need in going down here. Let's just leave." I said, "No, go to that laydown. I want at least flip in there, see what happens." And he was fussing the whole time. But once we got there and I flipped in, I caught a 4 pounder. And, and I was kind of worried if we'd get bit with people that close to it. But it seemed like it didn't bother that fish. It bit and
makes sense.
helped us win.
Well, this is the first technique of the week. It's new, so it's a little all over the place, but I think it's gonna be something good we can do at least every other week or every week. Um, like I said, we're going to record these. If we do it on Wednesdays, post them on Thursdays. If y'all like it, give us feedback. We love the feedback. If you like it, you don't like it, if you want something different, change something, let us know. Because like we said before, this podcast is for y'all. We enjoy talking, sitting around talking, goofing off. But we want to make sure that y'all are enjoying it as well. So leave us some comments, leave us some feedback, and hope y'all enjoy.
Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, y'all too.